Okay, guys, let me zoom out just a little bit. Okay, if you will, I'm on page 54. You put whatever page you are on. We are going to talk about the next set of exponent rules, and today's rule is going to be the product rule. Product rule just means we're multiplying. So if you will, go ahead and flip to page 54. And I already have this written out, and there's not much notes to take today, so if you just write that, and then we'll do some examples together. Okay, so pause and write this first part real quick. It's really simple. Okay, when we're talking about the exponent rules, the product rule just means you're multiplying. Okay, the product rule is actually written as a to the x times x to the b, and it equals x to the a plus b. So in other words, what you're doing is you're just adding your exponents. Okay, so the way the product rule is going to work is you're going to multiply whole numbers. Now, they're not always whole numbers. Sometimes they're fractions, so this is why I also wrote coefficients to the side. And then you add exponents. Okay, so here are some examples. So for example 1, we're going to multiply whole numbers or coefficients, and I don't have any because 1 times 1 is 1. So all I have to do is keep the letter and add the exponents, so x to the 5th. Okay, for 2, w to the 9th times w. Now be very careful here. There are, again, no numbers, coefficients, but this has an exponent of 1. So I'm just going to add my exponents, and I get w to the 10th. Okay, for example 3, we have 4x squared times 3x to the 5th. So now you multiply those whole numbers, the coefficients. 4 times 3 is 12, and an x squared and an x to the 5th, so 2 plus 5 is 7. For example 4, I have 5x squared plus 6x to the 4th. Not plus, that's a times sign. I apologize. So 5x squared times 6x to the 4th. So multiply your whole numbers. 5 times 6 is 30. Add your exponents. If you have an x2 and an x4, 2 plus 4 makes x6. Okay, for example 5, I have negative 7 p to the 9th, q to the 3rd, r, times negative 4 p squared, q to the 6th, r to the 4th. I'm going to multiply my whole numbers. Negative 7 times negative 4 is 28. And I'm going to add my letters. A P9 and a P2 make P11. A Q3 and a Q6 makes Q9. And a R1 and a R4 make R5. Okay, for number 6, we're going to multiply those whole numbers first. Now, since the 6 is the only whole number you see, I need you to know that this is a 1 and this is a negative 1. It's not a negative a, it's a negative 1. So 1 times 6 is 6, and then 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. And now you can worry about adding those letters. You've got an A1, an A5, and an A1. 1 plus 5 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. So I have A7. I have a B1, a B1, and a B1. So 1 plus 1 plus 1 is a B3. Okay, for number 7, I have 6m times 7m squared n times n to the 4th. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is my whole numbers. So 6 times 7 is 42, and 42 times 1 is 42. Now I'm going to look at my letters, and I'm going to go alphabetically. I have M1 and M2, and those are the only M's I have. So I have M3. And then I have an N1 and an N4, so 1 plus 4 is N5. For example, 8, I have negative 4 times RS squared times negative 5 R to the 4th S. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put a 1 in front of that one so I can multiply my whole numbers. I've got negative 4 times 1, which is negative 4. And then negative 4 times negative 5 is 20. Now I add my letters. I don't have any letters on the outside, so I'm just going to look right here. I have an R1 and an R4. 1 plus 4 makes R5. I have an S2 and an S1, so 2 plus 1 makes S3. Okay, one more example like this. Had to throw a fraction in there. 1/4 times 8mn times negative 6m squared n squared. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a fourth of 8. A fourth of 8 is 2. So 1/4 of 8 is 2. And now I take 2 times negative 6, which would be negative 12. I have an m1 and an m2, so 1 plus 2 makes m3. I have an n1 and an n2, so 1 plus 2 makes n3. Okay, that's your product rule. Now, for the next 3 examples, we're going to do a combo. We're going to do multiplying and adding or subtracting. Okay, so now I'm going to pull your product rule we just learned, and then I'm going to pull the adding and subtracting rule we did the other day. So remember, PEMDAS, you're going to multiply first. So if I have 4a to the third b to the fourth times 5ab squared plus a squared b to the fifth times negative 2a squared b, I'm going to multiply first. So 4 times 5 is 20. A3 and A1, since we are multiplying, I add those and I get A4. B4 and B2, I add those and I get B6. Keep my plus sign. Here I have a 1, so 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. A squared and A squared, 2 plus 2 makes A4. B5 and B1, 5 plus 1 makes B6. Now, the only way that these can add is if you have the exact same letters. So I have A4B6, A4B6. So now I'm going to add my coefficients. So 20 and negative 2 make 18. And when you are adding or subtracting, you never, ever, ever change your variables or your exponents. So your final answer is 18a to the fourth b to the sixth. Okay, for example 2, I have negative 5cd times negative 3c to the fourth d minus 7c squared d squared times 2c to the third. First, I'm going to multiply. Negative 5 times negative 3 is 15. Now I add my letters when I'm multiplying. So I have a 1 and a 4, which makes c5. I have a 1 and a 1, which makes d squared. I'm going to bring down that minus sign. 7 times 2 is 14. I have a c squared and a c3, so I add these. 2 and 3 make 5. I have a d squared, and then there's no d's over here, so I only have d squared. Now, in order to actually subtract these, they must be the exact same exponents and variables. So I have c5, d2, c5, d2. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead. We're going to bring c5, d2 over because that's not going to change. And now I'm just going to do my numbers. 15 minus 14 would be 1. So you have 1 c to the fifth d squared. If you just left off the 1 and did c to the fifth d squared, that would be fine also. Okay, my last example, I have 19 m to the eighth n to the eighth minus 4 m to the fourth n times 3 m squared n to the seventh. I can't do anything on the left side, so I'm going to go ahead and bring that down. 19 m to the eighth n to the eighth. Keep my minus. 4 times 3 is 12. Now you're adding your letters when you multiply. So if I have m4 and m2, that makes m6 because 4 plus 2 is 6. If I have n1 and n7, that makes n8. Okay, to actually subtract these, you would have to have the exact same exponents. So m8, n8, but this one is m6. So therefore, these will not subtract. So this is your final answer. If you have any questions, please let me know. If not, get started on your worksheet.